Hello there and welcome to the exceptionally late Shrewsbury versus Liverpool preview. It kicks off in just about 4 hours. So yeah, got a little bit caught up this weekend and yeah, it got away from me to actually do this preview. But I'm really looking forward to the game, to be honest. Regardless of what happens in the game or who we put out, I just think I'm looking forward to it with a game that doesn't really have a lot of pressure on it for once. I think it could be a really good game for us. I think you'll see a lot more of the youngsters that we saw in the last round, which was against Everton. I think you'll see those guys come back in. I want to go back to that lineup that we put out. And it was Adrian, Williams, Joe Gomez, obviously Nat Phillips, but he has gone back on loan now as well. Milner started that game. Obviously won't start this game because of his injury that he picked up in that game. You had Lallana, Chirivella, you had Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Minamino and Origi. I personally think you could see something very, very similar to that. But instead of Nat Phillips and Joe Gomez, I think you could see a defensive partnership of maybe Joe Matip and Lovren. Purely because they're both back fit now. I think they're both back in training. Obviously Matip was on the bench in the last game that we just played. And then obviously Lovren has been coming back from injury as well. I think you could see that happen and give Joe Gomez and obviously Virgil van Dijk a rest in this game. I think using Larouci as left back, I'm all for it. Williams was excellent, a very, very big standout in the Everton game as well. Adrian in goal, I'm okay with. I'm very okay with. He's good as a number two gets for a Premier League team. Chirivella was outstanding in that game, as was Lallana. Minamino's first game took place then. Since then, he's had his Premier League debut and didn't do too badly. It was a very, very tough game against Wolves. And then obviously, you know, likes of Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Divock up front. I think that this is the similar sort of lineup that we would go for, obviously, with maybe Matip and Lovren in there instead of Joe Gomez. But let me know what you think of the starting lineup ahead of the game this afternoon. I think it could be a really good showcase for someone like Minamino to come in. A lot of people online are predicting that Minamino could be a goal scorer, a first goal scorer, and a man of the match and stuff like that. I think it's a good game for him to come into. There are some people saying that he could get rested as well, that he actually, you know, came in for a very intense time against Wolves, and he may feature against West Ham next week. So there's a different couple of ways that they could obviously play this one. Our bench on that day had obviously Oxlade-Chamberlain on it. It had Sadio Mane on it, who is not going to feature. We still don't know the extent of his injury as far as I'm aware. Could only be a couple of weeks instead of months, which is good news. But even so, still don't really know the full extent of it. Ki-Jana Hoever, you had Jordan Henderson on the bench. Obviously, Ryan Brewster was on the bench as well, but he is at Swansea now on loan, so the very best of luck to him. So there's going to be options that we can have, obviously, if Minamino doesn't play in this game. Now, talking about Shrewsbury, from what I've looked at, I wasn't greatly interested in how they've been doing in their league, because it's cup competition, and as we've seen over these FA Cup weekends and stuff like that, anything can happen in these games. Obviously, we're hoping that, you know, we're not going to be on the end of a giant killing or anything like that. The actual last time that we played a competitive game against Shrewsbury was in '96, and we had Robbie Fowler on the score sheet. It was a 4-0 win for Liverpool. And again, obviously, you know, that's a nice memory to look back at, but that was like, 23, 24 years ago. So obviously times have changed. We never know how these guys are going to turn up. Their manager I recognised the name, and it was Sam Ricketts, and I'm like, I know that name. I definitely know that name. And I went and looked it up. He used to play for Hull, and I was like, that's where I know him from. He's only a 38-year-old manager. I think there's something like 16th in their league, but that's by the by. He's got some old Premier League players in there as well, and he's got some younger ones. Donald Love, who I think used to play for Sunderland, possibly also Man United as well. And Roshon Williams, who was a young Man United defender, I think, but I'm not entirely sure. But what interested me was the fact that he seems to play a 3-5-2, or prefers to play a 3-5-2. Now, I'm going to make a bold prediction, but if they come out and play a 3-5-2 against Liverpool, and we set up in a 4-3-3, you're going to put whatever our three forwards are, let's say for instance sake, it'll be Minamino, Harvey Elliott, and Divock Origi. You're going to put our three front players against three defenders, and whenever we've really seen that happen, it's not gone well for the opposition, and that can be also when it's been our starting 11, which would have been like your Mane, your Salah, your Firmino, people like that. Like, even with Divock Origi, Harvey Elliott, who is someone I'm really excited to see develop, and Minamino, who's a brand new signing, and he's a very exciting prospect as well, and Divock Origi, who is a massive handful up front, especially when he's on it. You know, if he's on it and he's having a good game, he is a nightmare to deal with for defenders. So if he comes out and he plays a 3-5-2 against us, I can't see a negative outcome for us, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm not saying that Shrewsbury won't fight and they won't put up a good fight, put up a battle against Liverpool, because they will have to do that to combat us and the talent and skill and the levels that we are playing at the moment, even if we do change the entire team. But, like, if he changes his system from a 3-5-2 to accommodate for playing against Liverpool and our system, is that then going to have a negative effect on his team? Because they may be playing a system they're not familiar with just to cope with our system. And then obviously we've got different systems we can switch into. I think we switched into about 3 or 4 against Wolves alone. You know, we had something like a 4-4-1-1, we had a 4-3-3, something like a 4-2-3-1 at some point. There's so many different systems that we can switch into that we can then make ourselves trouble for them to deal with. Regardless of how they decide to set up. You know, having 5 in the midfield for Shrewsbury, you can sort of see what they're trying to do. You're trying to flood the midfield, trying to overload the midfield and get control of the midfield by having as many players in there as possible. But what you kind of will do with having a 3-5-2 and having so many midfielders, all basically probably in a line, maybe 2 dropping deeper, 1 a little bit more advanced, and obviously your wider midfielders, is you will leave pockets of space. And when you leave pockets of space for a Premier League team that is operating at the levels that we are, those tiny little, what you may see as tiny little pockets, are massive spaces of opportunity for our players, and they will play through those. Not at will. I'm not saying I'm not going to be disrespectful to Shrewsbury here, because they're in this competition at this stage for a reason. They've been competitive and they've done well. But I'm just trying to nail home the point that they will leave little pockets of space, and a Premier League team operating at high levels doesn't need massive gaping spaces to make an opportunity. They just need something almost like threading a needle, which is the old saying. Threading a needle, putting a ball into a space. And this is also where you could see someone like a Naby Keita, if he's fit, and I think he's been back in training, but I'm not entirely sure. If we see like a Naby Keita in this team, Naby Keita will be he will be the key that unlocks the door in that midfield, because his passing ability and his passing vision through half spaces and full on spaces as well is nothing short of magnificent when he's on form. He is absolutely fantastic at controlling the midfield, setting the tempo, his dribbling skills and things like that as well. Unbelievable. So I think Shrewsbury will make this a tough game. I think their system, being a 3-5-2, it could be difficult to come up against. And the young lads and that will have to, they'll have to battle and fight for everything they get in this game, no doubt. But if we can go out there and set a tempo that, let's be honest, not many teams have lived with this season. Wolves have probably been the closest, if I'm honest. In the Champions League, Napoli undid us. Yeah, that's true. But I truly believe that we can set a tempo, set a good example. I think we'll set up in a 4-3-3, sort of to start off with. Maybe Minamino will be out on the left-hand side, Harvey Elliott on the right-hand side, Origi through the middle. If he plays Origi on the left-hand side and Minamino through the middle, could work. I'm not sure it will, but we'll see what happens on the day. But I think it will be 4-3-3 for Liverpool. And in terms of a result, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Liverpool victory in this one. Might be a bit conservative, but I don't know. Because I've not actually watched Shrewsbury, I can talk about how their system sets up and how I think that they might set it up and how they'll play on the day. I can't guess how they're going to play, and I don't know what intensity that they play with. And people may turn around and say, it's a League One team, or this, that, and the other. Fine, but when it comes to a cup competition, it doesn't really matter what league you're in at that point. Anything can happen on any given day. If a team turns up or a team doesn't turn up, then anything can happen. So I'm going to go for a 2-0. I think you'll see some starring performances from Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, and Minamino as well. I think that you could see Minamino have a good impact on this game if he plays. If he doesn't play, then he'll probably play against West Ham due to Sadio Mane's injury. Let me know what you think ahead of the game today. Sorry about the late preview, but hey, we get there in the end. Let me know how you think we're going to line up, and are you excited for this game? Let me know it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please do like it and subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you once again, and I'll catch you later.